right? Many times what I found is while everyone is hustling, right, that nuances of process, right, is missing. In India,
Yeah.
Gurgaon or Bangalore, nowhere else. Fail fast, right? Leverage and that ecosystem today.
So I agree with that point that okay, at some point of time, it's actually important to raise funds to scale yourself, get motivation, and have a goal for your company, right? Then what is the perfect time to raise funds that it's not early, it's not too late?
It depends, right? Honestly, it depends on the growth trajectory that startup wants to take, right? Because like I said initially that okay, you want to scale, right? How soon you want to scale, right? How fast you want to get to that next level, right? Say you have public funds because anything that you do at this point of time, right, it is going to uh, the moment you start taking a fund from certain VCs, etc., right, you are going to divest a part of your own uh, shares in that organization, right? So how much of it that you are ready to say give away at that point of time, right? So there are those kind of dependencies which I would want founders to look at, right? Because I know founders who just have about 2 or 3% stake in the company right now. More than 90% is with the investors, right? Do you want to be someone like that, right? Or you want to be someone like a 50% holder, right, and have the rest of the shareholders and all this stuff, right? And that second point, right, how soon you want to scale to that next level, right? Do you see your product working for a certain asset class, right? What is that next asset class that you want to figure out? What is that next product that you want to build for which you will need immediate funds, right? And that is where you have to define the path. Okay, I am going to use an investor money here because I want to scale fast. I have another project idea which is probably dependent on this product, right? And I cannot use that shareholder money at this point.
Fine. But then, don't you think that companies who actually grow really fast, right? They also fail fast. We see many companies that were like on the peak in just 2 years, and after 2 years, there's nothing.
That is what. So, like I said, see, as a brand or as a startup founder, you always have to think about sustainability, right? If I want to build a sustainable brand, if you are a fly by night operator, fair enough, take VC money, try to build 2 years. If it worked, it did not work, off to the next idea, right? That can be an approach, but how does it impact your own personal brand, right? In next 5 years or 10 years, right, are you known in the industry for building sustainable products, sustainable brands, or someone who has just failed at 3 or 4 product ideas, right? So think from that point of view, right, how things are changing or how you want your own personal brand to be known for.
So that actually comes personal to the founder that, and what happens if I want to develop my product, but I have no one to guide, right? Because from a zero level, I'm starting, I'm making my product. You said to scale, you need to have a pattern, you need to have a trajectory that, okay, what's my next plan? You need to plan everything. How do I do that planning? Because I am a first time founder, I don't know anything. It's just me experimenting. Then whom should I talk to? Should I talk to multiple people? Should I trust one person? Should I figure it out on my own? What should be the path?
Like I said, build in public, right? The moment you build in public, right, you will start leverage the power of community, right? And that community, next, even if you're failing, there will be a community who will just pick you out and say, okay, this is not going right, you can your best utilized here, right? And that is what the biggest advantage of building in public is, right? Like I said, there are disadvantages that everything is known to people, but the advantage is also that everything is known to people, right? And that you can leverage it to your benefit, right? And that other part is, even if you fail, right, today the opportunity cost is very less, right? So fail fast, right? Leverage, and that ecosystem today in across major cities, at least in India, there is a powerful startup ecosystem, right, which anyone can start leveraging, right? Be part of that ecosystem, find opportunities to be part of that ecosystem, right? It could be as simple as attending the events of that ecosystem, being part of it, and say, okay, I am going to host it, or I am going to take a photo while you are doing an event, right? Make yourself be part of that community, make you yourself utilizable as part of that community, so that you start getting noticed, right? Tomorrow if there is a, yeah, I know Shrey, I know this guy, right, who can do this work because he helped me here, right? That is that recall, branding, leveraging ecosystem, everything about.
Okay, just a quick question, right? If I want to start up, or any founder wants to start up, moving immediately out of college, zero experience, nothing, which place would you recommend him or her to actually settle and start, so that the ecosystem which we talked about, right, the environment, the connections, they get the access to it?
In India,
Yeah.
Gurgaon or Bangalore, nowhere else. Just two places. If you want to be in startup, take start any kind of startups, right? Be in either of those places. Gurgaon has a very good ecosystem for startup founders, right? Some of the leading names are there, right? Bangalore, the tech driven startups, amazing culture, right? Minus the traffic, you will love everything here.
Okay, now back to the topic, right? This was just a quick question which came to me. Now, while hiring for a startup, there's a general misconception, right? There was this podcast of Raj Shamani with a guest where he said that, okay, while Raj Shamani himself was starting out, he hired 5 people, one for branding, one for some other thing, and everyone was a really, at a top position in their own companies previously, from Hindustan Unilever, from ITC. Everyone was a, knowledgeable guy, but the product failed actually. The next time he hired 5 people who were fresh, had hustle, had fire in them, and Raj just spent time with them, trained them, and it actually worked out. So, what do you think for a startup when you are hiring, and for example, product manager, right? Should you hire an experienced guy like yourself who has worked in multiple streams for 15, 16 years, has a really good experience, has connections, or should you actually work with a freshman?
What are you hiring for? Right? That becomes the most important question. Right? If you are going to hire someone who is experienced, right? Why are you hiring that person? Is it just for the experience, or is it for the success that he or she has built? Is it for the process knowledge that he or she brings to the table, right? Because like I said, at many times what I found is, while everyone is hustling, right, that nuances of process, right, is missing, right? When someone like my experience, or someone 10 years or higher, right, they have that knowledge about certain processes, right, which becomes critical when you are trying to scale, right? You can have freshers, no problem, they can help you do the grunt work, right? So if you want, again, you pay peanuts, you get monkeys, right? So everything you'll have to relate to. One is, can you pay good dollars? If you are paying good dollars, what is the thing that these guys are going to bring to the table, right? Is it the process knowledge? Is it the industry knowledge? Is it their own connections in the industry, right? If they are not able to bring either of the three, you are good with going with freshers, right? Because anyway these guys are not going to bring any, the only thing that these guys are going to bring is that hustle part of it, right? They can work tirelessly for 20 hours without saying a word, because they love your product. And final point is, do you believe in your idea? right? If you have that 5% doubt, then those guys will not believe you, right? So because see, the person who has spent time in the industry has seen enough, right, to say that okay, this may not work, right?
So, figuring out this small things at a startup, I think it actually makes it successful. But as for you, how did you start, or how did you figure out that now you are going to mentor startups, and how did you get your first startup on board?
Who said I figured out?
And how did it happen?
No, so like I said, see, as you start spending time in the industry, start spending time in the ecosystem, right, and you start building your personal brand, opportunities will come to you, right? And that is where I say that importance of building the personal brand is imperative, right? In today's world, everyone has a digital presence, right? If you don't build your personal brand, right, it is, I say it is akin to building your digital real estate, right? In the physical world, right, you build a house because you want to show to the world that okay, I have a physical place of residence, right? This is my own, right? Same in the digital space. If you don't have a website, if you don't have a personal brand and saying that okay, that tells out that you are you, the unique part, right, then you are missing out on lot of opportunities. And that is why that real estate is very important. Digital real estate, start building today.
Mm. It's like you see a mango on the tree, but you are not, plucking it out. You have the capacity, you have the ability to actually do
Everyone, see
it.
today, like see today, I think we spoke earlier today, right? Anyone who has a phone can create content,
Hmm.
right? And creating content is the easiest part today. What is critical is how do you stand out, and for you to stand out, you have to keep on making that noise continuously, right? I am the startup guy, I am the founder guy, I am the startup, I work in this way, I talk to customers in this way, right? That entire thing you have to keep on pushing to the
You
world.
need to hammer the idea, hammer the brand in the viewer's mind, right?
Absolutely.
Okay. So now again, from your perspective, working as a startup mentor, right? What are the things which you have noticed? What is that pattern which you have noticed that which differentiates successful founders and unsuccessful founders?
Never give up, right? Again, to the earlier point, right? If you have the idea, have that 100% or more belief in your idea, right? And then don't give up on that idea, right? That is the first and foremost. The second is delay taking investor money as long as you can, right? See how you can drive it, right? You have all multiple avenues today. Luckily the government support is too high, right? Exhaust those avenues also, right? There are too many ways banks lend you, right? They lend you for very less kind of interest rates. Explore those avenues, then go to the investor money, and that is where you will have to find, work closely with your chartered accountants, etc. So if I say the top 3 or top 5, one is perseverance, right? Second is belief, right? Third is again hustle to a certain extent, right? Hustle towards an idea. By hustle, I don't mean work 24 by 7, right? That is a different, and I don't subscribe to that part, because if you love something, you will anyway go spend time on it. But end of the day, that should not be at the cost of your mind, body, family.
So I think that's also what I personally think, that building a startup, building a company is more like a marathon. You need to run slowly, but you need to run long. You can't just exhaust your energy for 100 meter and then walk all the way through.
Yeah, don't be a flash in pan, right? Don't be a flash in pan. Ensure, okay, you need to build that runway, right? You build that runway and keep being on that runway for a long time.
Okay. The major issue which also I face in this podcast, also people face in startup, that how do you actually delegate work? Because there are, as if I'm starting out, right, it's my child, I want to do everything, I want to also look into technology, I also want to look into marketing, but it's important to delegate work if you want to scale, right? It's important to build a team. So for a really early stage startup, how do you actually delegate work?
Interesting thing I heard recently, right? And it aligns to something that you just said, right? If you really want to build it, and delegation is an art. Honestly, delegation is quite an art in itself, right? But if you want to learn it, make yourself redundant in the work that you are doing. The moment you make yourself redundant in that work you are doing, that means you are delegating effectively. So at every stage, any job that you are doing, make yourself redundant of that particular task, get it to someone else, right? Ensure that that person is skilled enough, scaled enough to do whatever you are doing, right? And then back off, right? Start doing next work. That's the only way you can do it. And be dispassionate, right? You can be passionate about your idea, right? You cannot be passionate about the task that leads to that idea.
Okay, but then how do I also ensure that the person whom I have delegated would actually do it at the 100% capacity and also do it how I want them to do?
They will not,
Then how do you
right?
figure it
They
out?
will not. Always assume that people will always do the task at 95% of their capacity. You cannot expect them to be you, and that is why you have hired them, right? You cannot clone yourself, right? You have hired them to do certain tasks. They had certain limitation. They can overcome that limitation over time, but you cannot expect them to be you. Never expect that, right? You have to assume that 95% of the job will be done, 5% will still be pending, so plan it accordingly.
All right. So we come to the last section of the podcast, right? This is one question which we ask to every guest, and which is that what is that you do, regardless of whatever position you are, right? We face setbacks, right? We have moments where maybe some project didn't work out, maybe some loss has happened. How do you actually overcome it, and how do you suggest founders to overcome the loss? How to overcome the the mess they have made?
Okay, there are a couple of answers to it. One is time is the biggest healer, right? It's a very strange thing, but it's true, right? At least from the I'm 45 plus right now, so I have seen enough world and say time is the best healer. You move on for certain things, right? And second thing, and this is something coming from one of my senior, right? And it's like whenever someone criticizes you, or you probably have failed at a certain task, right? It is that moment that has failed you. You are not a failure, right? In that moment probably you did not do something well, right? And that has failed you. You are destined to do things in a certain way, right? Learn from it. The next time you do it, ensure you not repeating the same mistake, right? And that is what I would say, right? Any startup founders, right? Failures will happen, right? Every day, right? Every second someone may be here. It's not that person is not bad, that timing is bad, right? So don't ever blame a person, just blame the time, move on, get on the next task, go move forward.
Detach your identity from a failure. You are
Absolutely.
not a failure. Maybe the actions, the
And
situation, and
yeah,
all came together that made that action fail.
exactly. So it's because you are destined to do something different, right? Don't think, okay, this is end of the world.
Hmm. Thoughtful.
Yeah.
Thank you for having, giving the time to be on the show, and we really look up to it. And people won't know that you are actually the first mentor for this show and actually review every episode. So
No,
thank you for
my
that.
pleasure, and thanks for having me here. And like I said at the start, always glad to interact with you guys.